The majority of companies are suffering from a costly internal feud that drains revenue and efficiency. So what is the structural flaw, and how can we close that gap between marketing and sales to finally unlock profitable growth? It's one of those strange paradoxes of modern business, a hidden conflict that just hums along right beneath the surface. Today, we're going to pull back that curtain, diagnose the problem, and lay out a really precise structural solution. Let's get into it. So here's our game plan for this explainer. We're going to start by diagnosing that costly internal feud and see why a modern crisis made fixing it, well, not optional anymore. Then we'll break down the structural fix that's known as Smarketing. We'll look at the psychology that makes it work so well, and then outline how you can mandate this collaboration. And finally, we'll land on the single most important idea that ties it all together.
All right, let's dive right into the problem itself. And I want to be clear, this isn't about interpersonal drama or fighting over budgets. This is a fundamental structural flaw, a hidden drain on your company's financial health. The thing is, most leaders either mistake this for a people problem, or even worse, they just completely ignore the financial bleeding it causes.
So I want you to really think about this question for a second. In your own organization, where does that friction really exist? Where do the handoffs fail? We often just assume that information and leads are flowing smoothly, but it's that very illusion that blinds us to a critical and very, very expensive truth. And here it is. Here's the cost of that illusion: a loss of 10% or more in annual revenue. This isn't some small leak. It's a gaping hole in the hull of the ship. And what's so wild about this number is that the money isn't being lost to your competitors or a bad market. It's lost internally. It's a self-inflicted wound born from simple misalignment. This is money being left on the table because two of your most critical teams aren't even speaking the same language. So it turns out, the feud isn't really personal, it's philosophical. It's rooted in something that seems so simple but has these massive downstream consequences, a fundamental disagreement on definitions. Specifically, the two teams that are supposed to be rowing in the same direction have completely different answers to the single most important question in the entire customer acquisition process.
And this slide just illustrates that core conflict perfectly. For marketing, a qualified lead is someone who's showing behavioral interest, right? They download an ebook, they came to a webinar, but for sales, that's not even close to enough. They need purchase intent, someone with budget, with authority, and an urgent problem they need to solve now. So when marketing is celebrating 1,000 new leads, but sales sees 1,000 unqualified contacts, you get friction, wasted effort, and of course, lost revenue. It's a system that's literally designed to fail. The solution, thankfully, has a name: Smarketing. And no, it's not just another buzzword, it's a disciplined system. It's specifically designed to replace all those subjective, philosophical arguments with objective, measurable, and collaborative processes. It forces the two teams to stop arguing from their own corners and start operating from a single, shared source of truth.
Now, for a long time, companies could actually get away with this inefficiency. They could afford it. But a huge shift in market forces changed everything, and it made this alignment not just a good idea, but an absolute necessity for survival. And understanding the why now part of this is really critical.
That necessity was driven by the modern crisis of skyrocketing customer acquisition costs, or CAC. That's the total cost of sales and marketing just to get one new customer. You see, as digital channels got more and more saturated and we all developed banner blindness, it just got way more expensive to get someone in the door. The old wasteful model of just tossing low-quality leads to a sales team became financially impossible. Every single dollar had to work harder, and that internal friction was just too expensive to tolerate anymore.
And this is what that old broken model looked like in the real world. You had sales teams spending their most valuable resource, their time, chasing leads with almost no intent. You had marketing resources just being poured into generating volume over actual quality. And the results? Well, they were predictable. Painfully long sales cycles, depressingly low conversion rates, and just a terrible return on investment for both teams. The CAC crisis simply held a magnifying glass up to this broken model and exposed it for the liability it always was. So this required a pretty radical shift in thinking. Companies spend fortunes, optimizing every tiny little step of the external customer journey, right? From the first ad click to the final checkout. The Smarketing solution demanded that they start applying that same level of rigor to the internal journey, that handoff from marketing to sales. It had to become just as frictionless and just as data-driven.
Okay, so now we get the problem and we understand why it became so urgent. let's pop the hood and look at the actual mechanics. How do we build this bridge between sales and marketing? It's not about trust falls or team building exercises. It's about engineering a brand new process. The entire smarting system is really built on this 4-step structural fix. It's pretty straightforward. First, you unify the definitions. Second, you implement objective lead scoring. Third, and this is the absolute key, you formalize the whole relationship with something called a service level agreement, or SLA. It's basically a formal contract between the two teams. And then fourth, you measure both teams on joint revenue goals. Now, the brilliant thing about the SLA is that it works like a formal treaty between these two departments. Just look at the commitments here. Marketing doesn't just promise leads, they commit in writing to a specific volume of leads that meet an agreed upon quality score. And in return, sales doesn't just promise to work the leads, they commit to a specific response time for every single qualified lead they accept. See? It creates this clear, written, back and forth accountability. And that right there is the power of the SLA. It takes this informal, often contentious relationship and it legalizes it. It replaces assumptions and complaints with documented commitments. That subjective feud, you know the one, your leads are bad, well, you don't call my leads, it's gone. It's eliminated because the rules of engagement are now objective, transparent, and agreed upon by everybody. So we have the structure, but look, a process is only as good as the people who actually follow it. So why does this particular structure work so well on a human level? Well, it's because it systematically leverages some really powerful principles of human psychology to drive that behavior change. The first and most powerful principle at play is commitment and consistency. I mean, we all know this. Once we make a choice or take a stand, especially if it's a public one, we feel this immense internal pressure to behave consistently with that commitment. The formal written SLA is a public commitment. It forces both teams to go on the record, which dramatically increases the chance that they'll actually honor the agreement. The second psychological driver is reciprocity. As humans, we're just wired to return favors and pay back debts. It's the classic, you scratch my back, I'll scratch yours. In this system, when marketing holds up its end of the bargain by delivering a steady stream of high-quality, pre-scored leads that actually close deals, it creates a social obligation. Sales feels compelled to reciprocate that high-quality input with high-quality output, namely fast, diligent follow-up. It turns the relationship from an adversarial one into a mutually beneficial one. And finally, the system resolves cognitive dissonance. That's that mental discomfort we all feel when we're holding two conflicting beliefs at the same time. Without a shared system, marketing believes the lead is great and sales believes it's terrible. This creates constant tension. But a unified, objective lead scoring model gets rid of that conflict. Both teams are forced to judge lead quality by the exact same data and criteria. There's only one version of the truth, which just removes all that psychological friction from the process. Okay, we've seen the structure, we understand the psychology. Now let's translate all these insights into a clear, actionable framework for mastery. How do you actually implement this thing and mandate the kind of collaboration that drives real profit? Here's the path. First, you lock sales and marketing in a room and you do not let them out until they create a unified definition of a qualified lead based on objective, quantifiable actions and data points. Second, you implement the formal SLA. This has to be treated as a non-negotiable contract. It governs lead volume from marketing and response time from sales. And third, you have to centralize your measurement. And this slide really highlights that final critical step. You have to get rid of the old siloed KPIs. I mean, rewarding marketing for just generating leads and sales for just making calls, that actually encourages bad behavior and misalignment. You have to replace them with shared goals that are tied directly to revenue. When both teams are measured on something like net dollar retention or revenue growth, they are forced to collaborate on the only outcome that truly matters, creating happy, profitable customers. This brings us to the end of our explainer and to the core insight that really unlocks this entire system. After digging through the structure, the psychology, and the implementation, it all boils down to one powerful, clarifying idea. And here it is. This is the single most important takeaway. We spend so much time worrying about organizational charts, but the most damaging silos are not organizational, they are definitional. The problem isn't that sales and marketing are in different boxes on an org chart, it's that they are operating from completely different dictionaries. Fixing the definition is the first and most important step to fixing the business. By implementing the cold logic of a service-level agreement and a unified scoring system, Smarketing addresses this deep human need for clarity and for shared purpose. It takes all of that energy that was previously wasted on internal friction and transforms it into profitable, predictable execution. You get to reclaim that 10% or more in revenue that was just being lost to simple miscommunication. And this, right here, is the ultimate takeaway. The true purpose of a great marketing system isn't just to push prospects through a funnel. It's to create such a clear, data-driven, and universally accepted definition of a qualified buyer that it actually pulls the entire organization, especially sales, toward creating value for that specific person. It aligns the whole company around the customer.
So I'll leave you with this question to think about. Look at your own organization. At the handoffs, the metrics, the meetings, is it possible that your growth is being quietly stalled, not by a lack of effort or talent, but by a simple, solvable, and incredibly costly definitional feud?